On this week's episode of the Signature Move podcast, we give a very brief review of AEW Revolution. Paul Heyman is the first inductee in the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2024, plus the New Japan Cup. We have the bracketology, and I'll give you who my favorite is to win the whole thing. Let's get the show started. 10 times out of 10 I'm right, with this pen I write the thoughts of a genius, verified that I'm nice. My quotables are quotable, just ask me the price. Legend in 2 games, Steve Stout on the mic. I stand on my square, whatever circle I'm in. Circle the block before I step in the spot in this world of sin. Ain't here to be a victim, a villain. I'm here for business, sipping light beer like Mans Warner and pure denim.
Shook, got them spinning they boots. It get crazy when I get in the mood. Don't talk to me, dog, until you finish your food. Hope your image approved. Never been in it to lose. Before we finish them, we hit them with the signature move.
Go, go, that make them go, go, play, make you flow, go, go. No one play with you. Welcome back to the Signature Move podcast. My name, of course, A.O. Baker, and this is powered by the Ringside Club. For starters, before we continue on with the show, I want to let everybody know to check out theringsideclub.com. The Ringside Club podcast is available every Thursday. We're live somewhere between the hours of 9 and 10. So make sure you tap in with us live this week. And a little bit of breaking news. I just saw this come across my timeline on X. According to Sean Ross Sapp, this man right here, Mike Santana, is officially no longer a member of the All Elite Wrestling roster. So the tweet from Sean Ross Sapp says, Fightful Select can confirm Mike Santana is now gone from AEW after he was removed from their roster page. We'll have more details this week. This past weekend, there was a match at House of Glory Wrestling. Mike Santana, who's the current champ, he defended against Pentagon and successfully defended against Pentagon. But yeah, Mike Santana no longer a member of AEW. It's insane to me that, back when Proud and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz were on good terms, so it seems, and were a tag team, that they never were tag team champions in All Elite Wrestling. And then obviously there was a fallout between Santana and Ortiz. Santana went on and wanted to push for himself as a singles guy. He's been making his moves. Obviously, he's the House of Glory champ. And he's also been making moves. I know he's a champ for a promotion in Canada. I saw him recently promoted for Rev Pro coming up sometime later on this year. He's been all over the place making his rounds on the indies. And he's been very heavy on, as far as betting on himself. So, obviously I'm going to continue to follow him. He's one of my signature movers that I, announced earlier as far as the list of wrestlers that I really enjoy watching. But no longer a member of AEW. It seems right after that blow off, that feud with Santana and Ortiz with that one-on-one match that I believe took place on Rampage. That entire feud took place on Rampage. Soon as that was over, we didn't see Mike Santana on TV. We didn't see him on AEW television. So that's crazy because I thought there was a lot of talent and potential in that tag team and a lot of talent and potential in both Ortiz and Santana as singles guys. But yeah, once again, according to Sean Ross Sapp, Santana is no longer a member of AEW. And we'll just stay tuned to see what happens as far as more news going into what went into that decision being made, what interviews Mike Santana makes, whatever comments he's going to make, if any. I doubt that we're going to get anything from AEW or Tony Khan. Maybe until the next media scrum, I guess, or press conference or whatever. But yeah. It's crazy to me. But yeah, make sure you follow Mike Santana as he moves around the indie scene, and we'll see where he ends up next. TNA, I think, is a perfect place for Santana, in my opinion. He's again on this crusade to solidify himself as a major threat, as a singles competitor, and TNA has a lot more room, I think, at the top where I think he sees himself and where I honestly think he can go. At the top of the card, there's a lot of room for Santana to make some real serious moves right there in TNA wrestling. So hopefully, he lands somewhere. Hopefully he does exactly what he wants to do. Let's start there. And he's able to continue doing what he wants to do as far as his career is concerned in pro wrestling. But as far as landing spots and the obvious speculation that's going to happen as to where Mike Santana lands, I think TNA is a perfect place for him to land. So yeah, we'll see what happens next for Santana. We have a lot to talk about. Last night, AEW Revolution was one hell of a pay-per-view. Sting's last match, of course. You don't need me to tell you that. I'm sure you watched it. If you tuned into this show, chances are you saw the pay-per-view, or you at least heard what came out of it. You saw some clips. If you did not see that pay-per-view, it's being talked about as one of the possibly one of the best AEW pay-per-views ever, which in the long list of, let's say, 5 years of the company being in existence, that covers a lot of ground because there's already been a number of pay-per-views that have been the best ever, quote unquote. This was special. It was a special night. There were 9 matches on the main card. There were 2 matches on 0 Hour on the pre-show. Plus you had the special event of this being Sting's last match. So I'm gonna give you a very, very brief rundown of the pay-per-view, what I thought of some of the matches. Let's bring this match up first. This was the headliner. This is pretty much what sold the show out. Darby Allin and Sting defending the AEW World Tag Team Championships against the EVPs, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, passport names only, please. This match was special. Darby Allin, first and foremost, is out of his mind. You saw him jump off the ladder through some glass that was set up on the outside across, about 6 chairs. Insane. Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, were obviously the perfect opponents for Sting's last match. And then what can you say about Sting? What else can you say about Sting that hasn't been said already? I think he just did a hell of a job. It was just so much emotion. We saw legends that were there. I'll get into some of the legends that were there later on. But this was a special event. He came out, the entrance, for starters, he came out with his kids dressed up as different generations of the Sting, character. Wolfpack Sting, All-American Sting. This was a special night, special match. But basically coming out of this match, aside from this being Sting's last match, now that Darby and Sting successfully defended those titles against Matt and Nick Jackson, the championships are vacated. So we have to see now going forward, starting on, I would assume Dynamite will get more announcements as the week goes on. But the titles are vacated, and we'll see what kind of tournament or what kind of situation happens as far as determining who the tag team champions are going to be moving forward and how we get to who those tag team champions are going to be. Moving along, we had the world champion Samoa Joe defending against Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland. Story here, Swerve and Hangman have been at each other's throats for a number of months. Hangman is so obsessed with preventing Swerve Strickland from winning that championship that he might have even taken himself out of the race, or at least taken himself out of the match. But Samoa Joe successfully defended that championship. But we'll see what happens, what's next for Swerve Strickland and what's next for Hangman Adam Page, because obviously I don't think this is anywhere near being done. The women's world champions, Timeless Toni Storm, successfully defended against Deonna Purrazzo. But the thing to note coming out of this match is Deonna Purrazzo made Toni Storm tap out. And if it wasn't for Mariah May and Luther interfering in the match, we might have a brand new women's champion. So we'll see what happens, what's next for Deonna Purrazzo, and who's next for Timeless Toni Storm. We had the AEW International Championship match, and we have a brand new international champion. Roderick Strong defeated Orange Cassidy. He's been beat to hell over the last several months trying to defend his championship against all comers. So Roderick Strong kind of had fresh meat to pick. He beat Orange Cassidy for the title, and then after the match, we saw Kyle O'Reilly make his return, but we're not sure where Kyle O'Reilly stands. He gave Roderick Strong a hug, but he's not officially part of the Undisputed, what do they call it? Undisputed Kingdom. So we'll see what's next for Kyle O'Reilly, but Roderick Strong is the brand new AEW International Champion. We had the Continental Crown on the line. Eddie Kingston defended against Bryan Danielson, and this match can be boiled down to one word, and that's respect. Eddie Kingston successfully beat Bryan Danielson, and this was a hell of a match. Bryan Danielson is on an amazing run, but the story of this match all boiled down to Eddie Kingston wanting that respect and finally getting it. Bryan Danielson offered his hand. Eddie Kingston shook it. Still the Continental Crown champion, Eddie Kingston. This match here, Will Ospreay against Konosuke Takeshita, there aren't enough words in the English language to describe how amazing this match was. And just to think, like, with Will Ospreay's Tiger Driver not being the biggest holy shit moment of the match, That should tell you how hard these two went. This was a Don Callis, presentation, so to speak, as both members to date are still members of the Don Callis family. But Will Ospreay versus Konosuke Takeshita is a must-watch. If you haven't watched it, this pay-per-view is a must-watch. But if you haven't watched this match, this is up there as far as a 2024 Match of the Year candidate for sure. We had the TNT champion Christian Cage successfully defend against Daniel Garcia, but had it not been for the patriarchy interference, we might have a brand new TNT champion. Looks like Christian Cage might have a collision against Adam Copeland. He might, still be lurking. We'll see what happens with the two of them. And, of course, we'll see what's happening for Daniel Garcia. What's next for Daniel Garcia? FTR against Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli. Obviously, this has implications, seeing as how the tag team championships are vacated right now. Mox and Claudio pick up the win over FTR. Obviously, mutual respect between both teams had to have been earned. But Mox and Claudio coming out of this match seem to be the favorite as far as I'm concerned for who the new tag team champions are going to be. So keep your eye on that. Keep your eye on the vacated titles. But I would see FTR being part of the mix as well. And then we had the All-Star 8-man scramble with a shot at the World Championship on the line. Chris Jericho, Powerhouse Hobbs, Lance Archer, Dante Martin, Hook, Brian Cage, Magnus representing CMLL, and the eventual winner, Wardlow. Wardlow won this match, and he has a shot seemingly against Samoa Joe. We don't know when it's going to be, but we know it's going to happen. On the 0 hour, on the pre-show, Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale picked up the win over the TNT champion Julia Hart and her partner Sky Blue when Willow Nightingale pinned Sky Blue. Stokely Hathaway was on commentary, and he made mention that his team that he represents, Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale, still want that TBS championship. They want it in their camp. And this obviously has those TBS title implications. This was a hell of a match. Very, very hard hitting. Very, very hard hitting. Make sure you check this out. Make sure you watch it. It might be one of those matches that kind of slides under the radar along with the next match because it was on 0 hour on the pre-show. But this was one hell of a match, man, for sure. Make sure you watch it. And then finally, we had the 12-man tag, the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. They have all of the 6-man/trio championships between Ring of Honor and AEW. Basically defeated Team Jarrett, but coming out of this match, the headline is definitely going to be Jay White calling his shot, letting everybody know that he's still in the mix as far as singles competition goes. And this Wednesday, he has a match, and I believe he has a match against Darby Allin. So we'll see what kind of duct tape and super glue they use to put Darby Allin back together. But he's going one-on-one with Jay White this week on Dynamite. So moving along as far as some highlights coming out of the pay-per-view, we see this tweet for starters just talking about the run that Sting has had since he came back. He had a 3-year run in AEW. Tony Khan tweeted this saying that this was the greatest comeback in sports history. From age 61 to 64, he had 30 matches, a 30-0 record. 29 of those victories came in AEW, and then one the other victory, the 30th. Well, not the 30th, but 29 victories in AEW and one in Noah as part of the Great Muda's retirement match, his send-off match. And, of course, he retired as one half of the AEW World Tag Team Champions along with Darby Allin. So just some stats right there, courtesy of Tony Khan and Team AEW. Hats off to Sting. And then speaking of Sting, we saw so many tributes. Like I mentioned, he came down to the ring with his two sons, one dressed as Wolfpack version of Sting, and the other with the All-American, the red, white, and the blue. A lot of gear right there. The splash was heavy throughout the night. We saw Renee Paquette. She had a custom jacket on, but a lot of stars and the tassels in tribute to Sting. We saw Daniel Garcia come down to the ring with a jacket that was designed by Jeff Hamilton, I believe, and then gifted to him by West Side Gun. This was fire. All the scorpions across that in multiple colors. We saw, this mask, was worn by Magnus, and it had Sting's face paint on the side of the mask, I think on both sides. So I thought this was really, really cool, well-designed mask. And then we, kind of expected Brian Cage. He's been wearing a lot of Sting, inspired gear and face paint for quite some time in AEW. But, he came through with a nice little tribute to the Stinger as well. But just a couple of other things coming out of of the event, we saw that obviously Kyle O'Reilly, he's back. Pac is back as well. He had a video play during the pre-show, so we'll see what that means for Pac. Obviously, Rey Fenix is still on the shelf, but is Pac still aligned with Penta? Is Death Triangle still a thing? What's Pac's motivation? What does he want to do? Where does he want to go as far as his future in AEW is concerned? But yeah, man, congratulations once again to everybody over there on the AEW roster and Sting, man. Just hats off as far as having one hell of a career and going out in the best way possible. You know, as far as last matches go, I don't think, as far as the rest of the time that I'm going to be watching wrestling, I don't think anybody's going to be able to beat that. Moving right along, today it was announced that Paul Heyman is the first inductee in the 2024 class of 2024 Hall of Fame class. WWE Hall of Fame, of course, happens WrestleMania weekend. So just some quick notes, man. I mean, as far as Hall of Famers go, plus you can't do this in a better city, by the way, than Philadelphia, where Mania is taking place this year. And we'll be in the mix, of course, while a Mania is happening. There's some other events that I'm not sure I can talk about, but we're going to be, at least in the building for. But Paul Heyman, 2024 WWE Hall of Fame. His career, man, started like at age 13. Right, age 13, he was a photographer. A lot of his work was used in, publications like the Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazines. He went on to become a manager, Championship Wrestling from Florida, CWA, the AWA, eventually made his way to the NWA/WCW. Everybody knows his time as leader of the Dangerous Alliance. Just look at the names in that WCW version of the Dangerous Alliance. Back then he was known as Paulie Dangerously. Arn Anderson was a member. Bobby Eaton was a member. Larry Zbyszko was a member. Medusa, Michael Hayes, Rick Rude, and Stunning Steve Austin were all members of that WCW version of the Dangerous Alliance. Obviously, we know what he did as far as being the guy to take Eastern Championship Wrestling and turn it into Extreme Championship Wrestling, and the influence that ECW had on that era, on the Monday Night War, on the Attitude Era. WCW and WWE took a lot, style-wise, even some wrestlers in a lot of cases from ECW. So Paul Heyman obviously was the leader behind that. And then he went on to join WWE as a commentator. A lot of his work that he did as one half of the commentary team alongside JR, some of my favorite work of his, and some of my favorite commentary work during that time. He went on to do a lot of creative. Everybody knows about the SmackDown 6. Paul Heyman was highly influential there. And then as an advocate / special counsel / wise man, he was there notably alongside Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, and then currently with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. I mean, that's a very, very, very brief, just outline and overrun as far as what Paul Heyman has done in this business. And then, of course, being one of the best guys on the microphone, one of the best talkers in the history of the business. So as far as guys being, worthy of being inducted into the Hall of Fame, any Hall of Fame, Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, WWE Hall of Fame, Paul Heyman is more than worthy. So congratulations to Paul Heyman. And then finally today, we have the New Japan Cup, which kicks off this week. On March 6th as part of the 52nd anniversary event. You can watch that live on New Japan World. This week, the New Japan Cup, so just some brief rules. It's a knockout tournament, not to be confused with the round robin G1 that happens later on in the year. This is knockout. This is single elimination, basically, and there are no time limits for these matches, and the winner gets a shot at whomever the champion, the IWGP champion is at that time. The first three matches that are going to be kicking off the New Japan Cup for this event on March 6th, the 52nd anniversary, we have Toru Yano versus Yujiro Takahashi. There's a singles record between the two that Yano holds 6-1. We have Yoshihashi versus Kenta. Kenta has a 4-0 record in head-to-head combat versus Yoshihashi. And then Shota Umino against Jack Perry. Yes, that Jack Perry, formerly known as Jungle Boy, currently known as the Scapegoat, but he's making his New Japan debut versus Shota Umino. I'm picking Takahashi, I'm picking Yoshihashi, and I'm picking Shota Umino to pick up victories. But the bracket, I filled out my entire bracket. So you can take a look right here at the bracket. I'll just mention like my final four. Just got to make this a little bit bigger on the main screen. But my final four, I have Shota Umino and David Finlay, Shingo Takagi, and Zack Sabre Jr. So those are my final four. I have Shota Umino and Zack Sabre Jr. making it to the finals. And then finally Sabre Jr. taking the victory again to take on whomever the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion is at that time. Currently being held by Tetsuya Naito. But you can check out, so if you head over to the ringsideclub.com, and I'll also make sure there's a link in the bio. Shouts to the good folks over at sportofprowrestling.com. They put an editable bracket. They made an editable bracket available that you can fill out. That's where I got this bracket from. And you can actually, like, they're doing some kind of a contest to see who gets the most, the most right. All the rules are right there, but there's a point system, there's prizes that they're giving away. So head over to sportofprowrestling.com. You can find a link in the blog post and in the show notes. But this is my bracket. I'm not going to go, match for match. But again, my final four: Shota Umino versus David Finlay, Shingo Takagi versus Zack Sabre Jr. The final, Shota Umino and Zack Sabre Jr. And I have Zack Sabre Jr. taking the victory. So that's it. That's this week's episode of The Signature Move. Once again, make sure you check out the Ringside Club flagship podcast. This Thursday, we're going to be live on X, live on YouTube, of course, on demand everywhere the podcasts are available, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So make sure you check in Thursday. That's somewhere between the hours of 9 and 10. The full team is going to be in the building. Obviously, there's going to be more information and more fallout coming out of, WWE, of course, and from, fallout from Revolution on Dynamite. Plus whatever other news happens to drop in the world of pro wrestling. Plus this weekend, this Sunday, we are going to be guests on the Black Guy Wrestling podcast. That's Sunday. So make sure you tap in live. Follow everywhere on social media. All of the links are going to be right there. But yeah, man, this has been The Signature Move. My name is A.O. Baker. Make sure you subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend that it's the Ringside Club once again. Till next week, 7:05 live right here, X, YouTube. Peace.